I thought we were live.
Hi guys, we're back again. And yes, I couldn't find the live button, just saying. But it's us, me and Yvonne Marchese, the Salty Sisters. We are back. And today we have a fun-filled, even though the subject might not be fun, but it's going to be fun because guess who we have here? Dr. LaKeischa, yes, the founder of the Hormone Hottie Hotline, but more about that later. You know me, and if you don't, you should. I'm the freaking fabulous Cat Corchado, and I am a proud military veteran, which prompted me to start the Sisters in Service podcast. But I'm also the founder of Small Space Pilates, where you can get back into your freaking fabulous body again through the comfort of your own home with live classes. And I'm going to pass it off to my other half, probably the better half, Yvonne Marchese.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Hello, I am Yvonne Marchese. I am an age agitator, and I do that as the host of the Late Bloomer Living podcast and the Age Agitators Club for women, where we are making waves as we age. We are not going down without a fight, let me just say. Actually, that all sounds very confrontational, does it? But it's actually really fun. Yeah. That's me. I think you got the picture. Let me introduce our guest today. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for today. We have the Dr. LaKeischa McMillan. Dr. LaKeischa is in the house, and I mean, the minute I saw her on Instagram, guys, you got to go look her up on Instagram. She is Dr. LaKeischa MD, and look up the spelling. And she is the best that I have seen at talking about hormone balancing and putting it out there in a way that my pea brain can go, oh, I get that. And I think LaKeischa, you make it so accessible and understandable. She is the host of the Hormone Hotties Hotline podcast, which is fantastic. And she's an OB/GYN, first of all, with a mission to empower women for generations as they age. She is here to help you feel confident balancing your hormones, and that's her mission, and she does it really well. And welcome, Dr. LaKeischa. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I am so honored to be here with the Salty Sisters today. I'm super excited. I have been able to have conversations with you separately, and I know today we're gonna have to really be good, right?
Well, not really.
Do we? I don't know. Oh my gosh. I know today's conversation is going to be amazing. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me today.
So awesome to have you here. You have a lot going on right now too, Dr. LaKeischa. So the podcast launched in January, right?
Correct. Yes.
I love that you're doing a podcast. And one of the things that I loved listening this morning was that you were like, get out your notebook and your pen, whether it's digital or old fashioned, because you're putting out information that is like noteworthy, like take the notes, peoples. And, but it's also done in such a way that it's so fun to listen to. Your energy is just off the hook. I love it.
Thank you.
I love that too.
One of my missions is to be able to create a space where women can come and hear other hormone hotties stories. Because when you hear somebody else's story, then you don't feel so by yourself, right? You start shining a light and it takes away the boogeyman out of anything that seems scary, right? And then I was like, hey, I have this wonderful Rolodex of super friends is what I call them. And they're experts in their own right, whatever space they're in. And so I want you to be able to come to the same spot and get expert insight. And then I have my own corner, confessions of a perimenopausal doctor, because I'm going through it with y'all. So I'm in the fight with us. And I know that right now, because of the way the internet is and the way information is, it's like you're opening up a fire hydrant and you are just all over the place. You can be like, oh my gosh, I've heard over here. But to be able to go to a space where you can get information in a kind of a central location. And then I even say, hey, go talk to this or go listen to this person. I can guide you in a direction so you can start connecting all of the dots and get a bigger, cohesive picture instead of feeling so scattered and, oh, I'm over here and I've heard this and I've heard that. And what we do at my beloved, I call it Triple H headquarters, is it's that central location. It's like, hey, come here, kind of get your hormone hottie handbag, and then you can go from there.
I love it because also too, like I started doing the menopause research, and you don't know if so many times I'm reading stuff and I'm like, is this a trustworthy source? Are they trying to sell me something? What is this? But the minute that you open your mouth, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the real deal. I also want to talk. This is one of the burning questions that I just want to bring up is the lack of training in the medical community around menopause. Can we talk about that?
You saw me take my big exhalation on it.
I
did. Oh, I gotta take another one, right? Because I am. So let me go back a little bit and kind of paint a picture for you. It was July, middle of July, 2002. It is 7:00 in the morning. I am in our boardroom where we have morning report. I'm an intern, an OB GYN. I just started in July 1st is when all residencies start basically in the United States.
Oh.
And so that's our fiscal year, July 1. We're there. And so now it's a couple of weeks in, and my program director runs in and she's flashing this paper and she's like, this was FedEx to my home. Oh my gosh. It was the WHI study. Okay. So it was telling us what they had learned so far, how they had to halt one arm of it. And what happened is,
can you real quick talk about the WHI study, like what it was,
okay,
just for anybody who doesn't know?
Absolutely, because this is one of those conversations I love to have. So the Women's Health Initiative is what it was called. A lot of times we just call it the WHI study, but it was actually an initiative that had 3 arms of it. There was the hormone study arm of it. There was the lifestyle and supplement arm. And then there was also just a supplement arm of it, where they were looking at how they could prevent morbidity and mortality of some of the biggest chronic illnesses that women face. One of them, the biggest one, is osteoporosis, where your bones get soft and they can break easily. The next thing was cardiovascular disease, and then breast cancer. Well, let's put them in order. So actually women, the number one cause of morbidity and mortality in women is cardiovascular disease. Then there's osteoporosis, then it's breast cancer. Breast cancer actually gets more press. So
osteoporosis is above breast cancer.
Yes, osteoporosis is above
morbidity causing.
Yes.
See, and I don't think of it as a morbidity causing. Am I even saying that right?
Yes. Yes, right. You can die from having a hip fracture because of the complications.
Okay. You can't move. You can't do a lot of things. And when you can't move, then you don't do things. And
not only that, you can actually get something called a fat embolism, when you break that bone, there's part of that bone that can actually go to your lungs and cause you to have problems with breathing. It's not as commonly, but you're right, Kat. You don't move. You're not mobile. And so your life, the ability to do activities of daily living plummets. Wow. And one of the biggest indicators that you will have longevity is your ability to get up out of a chair on your own.
Without hands.
Unassisted. Yes.
Without hands.
Yes, without hands. Absolutely. Yes.
I'm hearing squats in my future today.
Okay. So we have this WHI study. It was the biggest study to date. It had 41 centers. There were over 166,000 women in all three areas of it. The hormone arm had about 66,000 women. And so it was this large cohesive study. What happened is, in residency, especially in OBGYN, when I was going through residency, y'all, that was over 20 years ago, we were not being taught past women having a baby. So you are very well versed in prenatal counseling. You're very well versed in, making sure that you talk about contraceptive counseling. You talk to women about their well women visits. You are super well versed in delivering babies, because that is really where the bulk of your clientele is going to come to you. So you're taught how to, manage a pregnancy, a low risk pregnancy. If somebody is a high risk pregnancy, who you refer to, who you have on your team. But once a woman gets to that age where things start changing for her physically because her hormones have changed, we're stumped, because we're really not taught anything about that. So that's
amazing to me. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing and appalling at the same time.
Absolutely. You mentioned on your podcast at the beginning that we'll spend a third of our lives in menopause. I mean, come on.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the reason is, I just heard a stat somebody just stated on another podcast I was listening to, is that when you look at the research, I was listening to a urologist who gave this information, and she was saying, if you just go to PubMed, that's kind of like our Google, where we go to search for the latest studies and medical information. If you put in like men and hormones, you could get almost like 50,000 results. You do that for women, you may get about 2,000. And that's because women historically have not been studied. And when I talked to one of I call her my mentor, she's an amazing hormone specialist too, Dr. Carrie Jones, we were having a conversation, and she said what was happening in the beginning is that women were excluded from studies because of their cycles, because they were like, well, we're not sure if we can confound this factor, and how do we put it into the data? That's why we need our own studies. We need to be able to understand what happens to your body in terms of cardiovascular disease when you're in your early teens or your early adulthood life. How do your hormones affect the vasculature? When your hormones start going down every decade of your life, starting in your 30s and your 40s, your 50s, and then it has that cessation of going to the levels that it used to. How does that affect that? We don't know, because women have historically not been studied by themselves. And so this gives this lends to this confusion. And what can we believe, or what can we trust, or what can I teach you?
Dr. LaKeisha,
go ahead.
I just have a question in that, I was thinking about signs and symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And for us as women, we are so into all the things that we're doing that you're almost knee deep in perimenopause before you kind of go, hey, what's going on here? So my question is this: once you realize that maybe you're in perimenopause, you're not sure, but you might be there, what, in your opinion, is the first thing a woman should do?
That's such a great question. And that is possibly a couple of part question. Okay. That's a couple of parts, because one, be sure and convicted that what you are experiencing is real. Because a lot of times you will go and you'll start saying, I'm either gaining weight, or I'm having brain fog, or you're starting to say something's changing with me. You may not even be able to articulate what it is, but you just know something's different. And being an advocate for yourself is crucial So talking to a provider, if that person is not listening, if that person is dismissive, I say to my patients all the time, you know, you can fire your doctor, right? You know, that's an option. That means go to somebody else, find somebody like myself that will actually advertise and say, I'm a menopause or a perimenopause specialist. I'm a hormone specialist. I help women that are going through this time of life so that you can have a conversation and get more information, because informed decision is huge. It is huge. So one, that's where I come in as an international menopause whisperer. I validate perimenopause and menopause women symptoms. I validate that for them because I think that is the biggest thing. And then I'm able to give you tools. So then you start looking and saying, okay, what are some of the tools that are available for me that will help me to feel my best? Because you're in a new body now. You are in a totally new body, just like when you went through adolescence. And remember how you were clumsy? You may have started, you know, tripping over things. You knocked over stuff. You were hitting your head and trying to get in the car because you've gotten taller. It's the same thing. Somebody said perimenopause and menopause is adolescence or puberty in reverse.
Yes, totally agree.
Okay, so it's the same feeling of you wake up and you feel you missed a memo. You're like,
Totally.
did an email go out last night and I wasn't on the CC or BCC'd because my body just completely changed overnight.
Yeah. And I'll say for my personal experience is that I'm only now looking back at my 40s and going, "Oh, yeah, all those things that were happening, that was perimenopause now that I know you." And I am like, "Okay, so I didn't have hot flashes at that point. I didn't have night sweats. None of that was happening, but all these other things that I've since learned are tied to perimenopause symptoms." I'm like, "Oh, brain fog, couldn't get rid of extra weight." I've never been somebody who had to struggle with my weight. Very fortunate about that, but I couldn't get rid of baby weight. I had what I lovingly called the pooch. It wasn't going anywhere.
Yep.
And, you know, it was, and the brain fog, let me tell you, was real. And, you know, a little bit of like depression.
Yes.
I mean, all these things
Yes.
that I am now going, oh.
Absolutely. You know, one of the, I call her my super friend as well, just like you guys, is Andrea Donsky. She is a menopause nutritionist out of Canada, and she and her team have put together a survey that she puts out for women on symptoms, and they have actually published a white paper. So they are now helping with the research of helping to say, hey, do you know that we have now uncovered about 103 symptoms that women can say that are tied to perimenopause and menopause?
Last number I heard was in the 80s, and that was staggering. And now you got more?
Yes. And she was saying that's why it looks different. That's why there is this inability to kind of capture it and say, oh, we're going to put a label on it, because everybody's symptoms are different and your symptoms can change.
Yes.
They can change. You know, I have women that says, I was in menopause. I went into menopause, 10 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, something new has popped up. Yeah, because your physiology has changed. So if we can understand that your symptoms, what you experience, are just an outward manifestation of reactions that are happening here in your body, that's the connection I want you to make.
Wow.
Dr. LaKeisha, I think it's funny when you were on Sisters in Service. And by the way, I have dubbed her, whether she wants to be or not, the Sisters in Service Menopause Battle Buddy. Okay.
I'll take it. I will take it.
And remember when you're talking about phantom itching?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but after that conversation, my ears started itching and are still itching to this day. And I'm like, what is going on with my ears?
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
It's so
gracious.
weird.
Yes.
It's so bizarre.
Absolutely. I mean, not only phantom itching, ears itching, mine is the phantom smells. And then Dr. Carrie Jones did a post. She just did a post this week saying, oh my gosh, if Dr. LaKeisha hadn't told me about this, I would have thought I was having some type of neurological issue. She said, I had my first phantom smell this week. She was like, thank you for warning me.
Okay,
but I'm
can you
mad.
talk about phantom smells?
It's where you can smell something nobody else can.
Oh.
And it's usually not the nicest
Smell.
Some people say they smell smoke or burning toast or like burning wire. Mine was and is, it still happens occasionally. It's almost like a hyper smell where I think it's tied to cleaning agents that we've used. Now we've changed them out. So now I'm like, no, it's just a phantom smell. And the first time I had it, I was walking upstairs and I was right at the junction of our hall bathroom and our bedroom. And I was just like, do y'all smell that? And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, that smell, you all don't smell like it is. It's like pungent. Like you don't.
It's right there. You can't smell it.
I went in the bathroom. I went in our room. I was like, come right. I made people come out in the hallway. I was like, right here, stand right here. You don't smell it? They were like, Ma, no. And it
So
goes
crazy.
away. It's like it comes and it goes. And that's one of those.
That's cray cray. That is cray cray. So I want to take you back because I think we got you off course. You were talking about the study. And
yes.
were you going to go into the hormone replacement therapy aspect of that? Yeah. Okay.
So what happened with the WHI study is that they looked at synthetic hormones in that study. That was the issue. They utilized estrogen that was called, it was conjugated equine estrogen, CEE, which means, women, it came from a horse. A horse's urine.
A horse's urine, no less.
Yes.
Okay.
And they took that and they made it to look like estrogen that we make. And well, actually it got, taken and converted to be able to sit on estrogen receptors. That's what I'll say. It's an estrogen receptor agonist, which means it's like taking a key and kind of making it the same as a key, the original key, and using it to unlock a lock. So it's not quite the original, but it can be used like the original.
See, this is why I love you, LaKeisha.
Pleasure. And then they used a progestin. So progesterone, we make estrogen and progesterone, ladies. And they said, hey, we know that they go in tandem with each other. So if you still have a uterus, because at the time, the only thing that they thought progesterone did was protect the uterus from having an overgrowth when actually exposed to estrogen. They said, let's make sure that you have progesterone. There's so much more to this and why it gets confusing. And it's confusing too because of the nomenclature. That's a whole nother story. So progesterone, which was a progestin, again, another synthetic, was used, and they combined them and they gave them to women. And they said, here, take this.
A one size fits all.
Exactly. Because they were like, maybe this will help prevent you from having another cardiovascular incident, because the majority of women, the average age was about 63 years old or older, and they had a known cardiovascular event, and they were trying to prevent another one from happening.
Oh, interesting. So hormone replacement therapy, HRT, helps with the cardiovascular morbidity problem.
Right. We were saying, hey, let's make sure, because remember that whole WHI study was trying to prevent some of the big morbidity and mortality from these three big areas: cardiovascular, osteoporosis, and breast cancer. What happened is they said, hey, we did see that there was a decrease in osteoporosis or osteopenia. That was great, but we did not prevent that secondary cardiovascular event. The event they saw was that there was an increase in stroke and blood clots. And it was due to the estrogen component. So that synthetic estrogen, that CEE, was causing an increase in those bad things happening in the cardiovascular system. They then looked and said, hey, we think we're seeing an increased risk of breast cancer. What's going on? When the study first came out, they said they really stopped it because of this perceived increased risk of breast cancer. And they were like halted. So they actually halted the study early. That's why it came out in 2002, the paper. When they looked at it, they said it looks like the progestin component is that component that's causing that increased risk. Here within the last 2 years, in 2022, they actually came out and revisited the data. There was no increased risk that was statistically significant in breast cancer above you being a woman. Okay, so they had to retract, because see, now everybody has in their heads, HRT causes breast cancer. HRT causes breast cancer. I don't want to do that stuff because it causes breast cancer.
Yeah. I held off on doing HRT for a while,
Yeah.
because I was like, okay, can I handle this some other way? That was a concern for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I say this all the time, docs, we don't have the best PR team. We just don't. We don't know how to go out here, and we don't know how to get the information out to the masses. So that's why some of us, like myself, we are on this hill with a bullhorn saying, hey, we have new information. I want you to understand it. Listen to what now we know can be helpful. You don't have to white knuckle it through perimenopause and menopause, because there are some great benefits that we have discovered that could be helpful for you. It's not just reducing symptoms, but it's also giving you some physiological benefits, decreasing your risk of osteoporosis, osteopenia, decreasing your cardiovascular risk, decreasing your diabetes risk, because we're going to decrease your insulin resistance and increase insulin sensitivity. We're going to decrease inflammation in your body. So all these things that are coming to me as a symptom, because women's cholesterol is going up. Their hemoglobin A1C is going up. They're like all these things that I never had to worry about. All of a sudden, what's going on?
Wow.
Dr. LaKeischa, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Can you speak about, a lot of women say, you know what, this is just what we go through as women. I'm not going to do anything about it. They're going to go without any kind of HRT or hormone replacement therapy. And I do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I did my homework. I asked lots and lots of questions. I think I told you I went back 3 times before I decided to pull the trigger.
Yes.
It was the best thing I ever did. I'm going to say that. But there are some women who just say, you know what, I don't want to do anything. What is the drawback to that, if any?
When they say they don't want to do anything, I actually want to understand what that statement means, because there's usually a layer below that. And if we can have a conversation on what's below that, and what's below that is usually, I'm scared. I don't know what this is. I don't trust the medical community.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know. Right. I don't know what to do. What am I doing the right thing for my body? I don't want to do something that's going to harm me. And so maybe I'm supposed to feel miserable is another thing that women go through too. One of those beliefs is that, well, this is just the way it is. And so I get through that first, Kat. I kind of figure out what is the belief? What are we dealing with here? Address that. And then I can give you the information and say, well, let's look at some options. Let's look at some alternatives while you're still gathering information. Maybe you are a person that needs some vitamin D. Maybe you need some calcium. Not everybody needs calcium. And I know a lot of people go and run off and start taking their calcium, but that's a whole nother issue, because if you don't clear your calcium like you should, you can increase your risk for having some other things go on too. So maybe you need calcium, maybe you need vitamin D. Maybe you need to make sure that you're doing your Pilates, your yoga, your strengthening exercises, so that you pull a little bit on that bone so the bone can do its remodeling and strengthen. You know, maybe you need to do some things with stress, making sure that your adrenals are taken care of, looking at your gut health as well. So there are a variety of tools that I give my hormone hotties to say, well, there are other things you can do. Once you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've done all of this and there's still a deficiency over here, that's when I step in and say, the only way to get your hormone levels to a level that can be beneficial to you once you go into menopause is to do a bioidentical replacement of that.
Yeah. I'll say that I definitely, before I also went 2 times to my OB/GYN before I decided to do the hormone replacement therapy. And part of it is that I really wanted to see what I could accomplish through natural methods.
Yeah.
And so I do work out, I do yoga, I do meditate. It's so funny when hot flashes would come up, I would very often be able to tie them to stressful thoughts, stressful moments. And I would be like, "Oh, how interesting is that?"
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd come up in the middle of a meditation, and I would just be like, "Okay, I'm just going to watch this. This is interesting. Isn't this interesting?"
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as I just watched it happen, I would watch it rise and fall.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, okay. It was so crazy to be able to tie those stressful moments or thoughts directly to whoosh, that feeling in the body, waking up from a bad dream with a night sweats thing, whoosh, and I'd wake up and be like, and it was like a panic dream.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me you had this superpower? Because I tried to stop a hot flash in its tracks, and it's like, oh no, you don't. It's coming, baby. You better hold on to the railing, because
Let me be clear. I don't know if I was stopping it. What I was doing was watching it. I would watch it come and watch it go, because I knew it was going to go.
I didn't want to
And
see it.
maybe it happened a little bit faster. Maybe it went a little bit faster because I wasn't resisting it. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, let me take off these clothes up.
No, I mean, I thought that if I just calmed down and I was breathe, I could feel it coming. I'm like, just breathe. And it would, because I thought I could stop it if I became calm, and it didn't. And for those of you listening, I am relatively a cold person. So right now I have like 3 layers on. And when my husband knew something was wrong, when we have this balcony on our condo and I'm outside, it's winter time, not winter, but it's cold. It's 25, 30 degrees. I'm in a t-shirt, pacing back and forth. Okay. And you could actually see the inside of the condo. And I told Dr. LaKeisha this. I said, I turned around and my husband he's there looking at me, and he goes like that. And I said, I'm having a hot flash. And it was just so encompassing. I mean, I would be speaking with clients, and all of a sudden and I'm trying to remain calm, and I'm trying to just look, and I'm literally wiping water like this. And they're like, are you okay? I go, I'm fine. I'm fine.
The struggle is real, my friends. The struggle is real.
And so both of you just demonstrated you had different experiences. And so when I sit with a patient, I say, what is the biggest symptom that is interrupting your life right now? Because I know there's probably a whole bunch of them, but which one is the one that's interrupting your life? Being disruptive. And so because there are layers to all of this, we start with one thing, and then I'm able to dig into that and be able to give them other information and tools that they they can use.
I love that. I think it's important to, I wanted to put it in the hands of someone who knew more about this than I did. And I try to figure it out for myself. I tried the different supplements and none of that was working because I didn't know how much I was supposed to take. It says, 2, and everybody's supposed to take 2. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So I put it in the hands of someone who does this and only this. And it was the best decision of my life. Now, it's not covered by insurance, but at some point you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I said, I don't care what it is. Let's just do this.
Yeah. And isn't that something that needs to change?
Absolutely.
Can I just say there needs to be some advocacy on this to get those bioidentical hormones covered.
Absolutely. Of course, the saying is that if this were a little blue pill, there would be no issue.
Right? I think we all know what the little blue pill is, don't we?
Women need their own little blue pill. I'm just saying.
And I have to say, for accuracy's sake, women do have their blue pill. It's Adia. So what they did approve a Viagra for women, but it does not address perimenopause and menopausal symptoms like hot flashes and night sweats and vaginal dryness. It is something that is used for a hyposexual diagnosis. Like if your libido is a big issue and a big problem and you have that DSM-4 type of diagnosis, Addie is something that can be available. There is a newer medication on the market now for that is non-hormonal that does address hot flashes for people that are not candidates for hormonal therapy. But the gold standard is to offer bioidentical hormone therapy first for the, to address symptoms, what we call vasomotor symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness. And those are the ones that are usually caused by a lowering of estrogen, but also testosterone and progesterone. When they drop, they can give you some variation of intensity of these symptoms as well.
Yeah. For people who are not candidates for HRT, that's people with a history of breast cancer, correct?
So
am I on target?
Actually, no.
Okay.
So if you've had a history of breast cancer, you need to have a full conversation with your doctor who does hormone therapy, because there is a window of time depending on what type of breast cancer you were diagnosed with. So it's not just a blanket statement that says, no, you're not a candidate. And there are various different types of hormone therapy you could be a candidate for. Okay. So of course, if you are actively involved in the treatment of your breast cancer, absolutely not, of course. And that's why I say you have to have a conversation, because there has been a lot of conversations around that, and there are some parameters for women now.
Gotcha. For somebody who either has just decided I'm not doing that, or for somebody who is not a candidate for HRT, what are some of the things that you recommend? I mean, I've seen you talk about the self-care that goes into lowering stress, that can help with some of those symptoms. Can you go into some of those?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So like you said, stress tends to be a trigger because it can cause an inflammatory response. Certain foods can cause an inflammatory response. And so I just recently heard my coach that I'm with now, she made the statement, self-care is not selfish, it's self-discipline.
Ooh. I've heard the self-care is not selfish, but I like that other part. Ooh.
Exactly. When she said that, I was like, oh, this is my notebook, right?
Put that in the toolbook, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. And she said, because a lot of women can relate to that, because we know that it takes discipline to run a household or be the CEO or do the project or whatever. And so we will do and do and do, but not allow ourselves to be. And
that's huge too. That's a mic drop right there.
Huge.
when we get to be the person that we are supposed to be here on this earth, we can then give from a full and overflowing cup.
Yes.
And so when you are able to sit with certain tools and be able to make some great observations in your life, and you start, so I think that's why women start talking about the 40s and the 50s, and they're like, oh my gosh, you start having this clarity around no is a full sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you start allowing yourself to patch the holes in your bucket because you've been giving from a leaky bucket.
Yeah. So much of that we've been trained as women to do. We have been trained to be people pleasers, to serve others, to be helpful, to be perfect in every way, shape, and form, in our speech, demeanor, and the way we look, and all the things, right?
All the things.
Something's got to give.
Exactly. So I really bring in tools that will help with balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system very quickly. I may not give you all the tools right away because I have a few of them, but I will, when I'm sitting with somebody, I will give them something that I am impressed that they can actually implement right away. So I will do something as simple as alternate nostril breathing, breath work.
That is like
huge.
Can I just say, alternate nostril breathing, like when I first experienced it in a guided meditation, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what juju power that is. It's crazy. Like it can take me from a panic attack to calm.
Yes.
It is unbelievable.
Yes.
If I would be in a panic state at work, and I would go to the bathroom and go do some alternate nostril breathing, and I would be like, okay, I can do this. And I'd go back out and get back into it.
Absolutely. I say that same thing to ladies. I say, go in the bathroom. You can do this in the bathroom. You can do it at your computer, on your Zoom call. Turn your video off. You can do it in your car. You can do it anywhere.
Anywhere.
The science behind that, Yvonne, is that you literally breath work, the oxygen that you breathe in and the carbon dioxide that you breathe out can literally rewire the pathways in your brain and short circuit that amygdala response. So you literally are blocking off the amygdala and you go, shh, calm down, hold on. And the body.
What is it about the alternate side though? I mean, I do other breath work, but there is something about that particular one that is so effective. It's crazy.
You're balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. You're balancing the seesaw. So I know that the left nostril stimulates sympathetic nervous system. The right nostril stimulates your parasympathetic. So when you do the alternating, you actually are balancing the seesaw again.
Dr. LaKeischa, can you, for those people that are watching, can you give directions on how to do that? Because, you know, some people will be like, okay, that sounds great, but how do I do it? Do I breathe in and out one nostril and then in and out another nostril? Or
absolutely, I love this. I do this all the time. So take your dominant hand, make that L with your thumb and your index finger. The thumb, if you're right-handed, your thumb is going to go over your right nostril. So you close off that nostril. You'll have the left one open. You'll breathe in and out through the left. Now close off the left, open up the right, and breathe in and out through the right.
So funny. This is why I go to the bathroom to do it, by the way.
Oh, I feel better already.
I was just saying, whenever I do this, my shoulders literally relax.
Yeah. It's amazing.
They literally relax.
That's
ladies. I am looking
there.
at the clock, and we have a date over on LinkedIn
for
the LinkedIn audio room that you guys are all invited to come join us in. But before we go, I want to say a couple of things. Kat and I are going to be back with you on March 29th. We're going to be talking. It's just going to be me and her, and we're talking about failing forward. which is fantastic. That's going to be a good one.
I love
And Dr. LaKeisha, I know you have an event coming up. Can you talk about that
do.
real quick?
Oh my gosh, I do. So talking about stress, I am co-hosting a spa day retreat and helping to relieve stress here in the DMV area. So if you're traveling to the DMV on April 6th, or if you're in the area, you can go to springu.vip and grab your day pass. It is going to be phenomenal. Myself and Dr. Nima, you will be able to have one-on-one sessions with us. You will have massage, face treatment, foot detox, brunch, mimosas,
I'm
access
so
to the
jealous.
I have
cafe.
such
Oh my
FOMO.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
All day experience to be able to fill back into your cup, ladies.
That is amazing. I wish I was in DC. I lived in DC for a while and now I'm like, dang it.
Okay, you need to have a traveling one so you can come to Charlotte and do it.
Yeah. Come to
I
Connecticut.
love that idea. Oh my gosh. I think that
Um,
would be awesome.
I want to say a quick hello to Adam, who says, I used to do this breathing and Kundalini yoga. Yes, it is a yogi breathing trick for sure.
Yes,
And Adam,
yes.
thank you for being with us today. Um, we should wrap up so we can join our folks in LinkedIn. If you guys have questions after this that are particular to you or to a friend, asking for a friend, come join us over on LinkedIn. I think the best way to find us, this is our first time doing this, by the way. I think the best way to find us is to come find me on LinkedIn. It's Yvonne Marchese, and you'll see the event there for Kat is the co-host, and of course, Dr. LaKeisha is going to be with us.
We'll see you on the other side. And if not, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Dr. LaKeisha.
Thank you, Dr. LaKeisha. We'll see you over there.